Okay, so back to factoring. This time we're going to factor with two terms. This is the easiest kind of factoring ever. However, a lot of people forget about it. Okay, while we're here in Chapter 4 and we factor when there are two terms, we are always going to be dealing with the difference of squares. Okay, and remember, the word difference means subtract. So it's got to have a subtraction symbol between your two perfect squares. If there's a plus sign between them, you cannot factor this way. Probably not at all. But we're looking for the ones that have a minus in the middle. So let's take a look at number 7. Here, I have two terms. There is no greatest common factor. There's a minus in the middle, so maybe it's a difference of squares. To test it, what I've got to do is see, can you take the square root of x squared? Yes, you get x. Can you take the square root of 9? Yes, you get 3. So here's how we factor it. Go ahead and set up two sets of parentheses. The square root of x squared is x. Put that in both parentheses at the beginning. The square root of 9 is 3. Put that in both set of parentheses at the end. Then one of these parentheses will be positive, the other will be negative, and you are done. That's all you have to do to factor these. See, like I said, easiest factoring ever. Number 8. This one also has just two terms, but before I even get into counting the number of terms, I should be looking for a greatest common factor. And this time, both of these terms can be divided by 4. So if I divide both of those by 4, I'm going to be left with x squared minus, this divided by 4 is 4. I always want to look, after I've done greatest common factor, look inside the parenthesis to see if I can factor some more. So this is where I have two terms. There's a subtraction, so it might be difference of squares. I can do the square root of x squared, and I can do the square root of 4. So it is a difference of squares. So there's my 4 that's out front. Now, if I go ahead and set up my two sets of parentheses, the square root of x squared is x. The square root of 4 is 2. One gets a plus, one gets a minus, you are done. All right, we have two more of those. So let's take a look here at number 9. I want to look here and see, do I have a greatest common factor? Maybe so. I can do 4 divided by 4, but I can't do 25 divided by 4. I can also do 4 divided by 2, but I can't do 25 divided by 2. So I don't have a greatest common factor, but I've got two terms. I want to look to see, can I take the square root of each of those? And there is a minus in the middle. So I can take the square root of the 4, and I can take the square root of the x. So far so good. At the end, I can take the square root of 25, and I can take the square root of y squared. So yes, I can factor this. Go ahead to your two sets of parentheses. The square root of the first term. Square root of 4 is 2. The square root of x squared is x. That goes first in both parentheses. Now for the end of this, the square root of 25 is 5. The square root of y squared is y. So I'm going to put 5y in each parenthesis. One gets a plus, one gets a minus. That is your factored answer. All right, last one on difference of squares. When I look at this, I do not have a greatest common factor. I've only got two terms and there's a minus in between, so I need to see if it is a difference of squares. Can you take the square root of x to the 4th? Yes, you get x squared. There's a minus sign. Now, can you take the square root of 1? Yes, it is 1. So let's go ahead and set up our two parentheses. The square root of x to the fourth is x squared. Goes first in each parenthesis. The square root of 1 is 1. One of those gets a plus, the other one gets a minus. And you might think you're done, but not quite. This parenthesis can be factored again, because this is a perfect square, I have a minus, and this is a perfect square. So I can factor this again. You cannot do it over here because there's a plus sign in the middle. So I'm just going to bring this straight down because I can't do anything with that. But now, for this other part here, we already discussed it's a difference of squares, so two sets of parentheses. To multiply and get x squared, I'm going to put an x times an x. That's what the square root of x squared is. Now the square root of 1 is 1. Put it in each one. 1 gets a plus, 1 gets a minus. This is your completely factored correct answer. Alright, that's it for difference of squares. I believe all we have left is the perfect square trinomials, otherwise known as square double square. We'll get that in the next video.